What's up everyone, Coach Tony here from the Strength House, and today I'm going to talk about hip position when unracking the bar for a squat. So where you set up your hips in relation to the bar when you unrack it really sets you up for success or failure for the rest of the lift. So I'll show you a couple of mistakes and then what you want to do to make sure you nail it every time. So regardless of what type of squat you're doing, back squat, SSB squat, front squat, whatever, we want to start with our hips slightly behind the bar and then brace our abs to bring our hips under the bar before we start. What a lot of people will do is one of either two things. First thing we see a lot of is people starting with their hips too far behind the bar, their back really arched because they're trying to get their chest up as much as possible, and then they're arching the bar out of the rack so they have a really poor core position here. You can see how arched my back is. My core is really disengaged. This is going to cause a whole host of issues. We've talked about this a million times. This is just a pretty poor way to start your squat. So don't start with your hips too far back. The other thing we often see is once people realize that they should brace their abs and have kind of like this canister position with ribs on top of pelvis, what you'll see is people will take things too far the other way and they'll really swing their hips through so far that their hips are almost in front of the bar when they start, and that often looks like this. So my feet are right under the bar, I brace my abs, I kind of like throw my hips through and lock out like I'm deadlifting, and this is not a great position to start in either. This is actually too tall, and what's going to happen here is if I hold this position as I get started to squat, I can't really sit my hips down this way without breaking at the knees and then falling forward anyways, or because my hips are pushed through so much like a deadlift, the only way I can get my balance is to push my hips back by unlocking my hips and arching my lower back. So, two extremes, don't take either of those. The key here is finding the middle ground. So, what we tell people to do is start with their feet a little further back than they would have in the second option we showed you. Hips behind the bar, then we're gonna tuck our hips under, like I'm turning my belt buckle up towards my nose, which is gonna brace my abs here in the front. And now, if I just stand up from here by locking my legs, my hips are slightly behind the bar, my abs are braced tight, and this is a really good position to squat from. Because my hips are slightly behind the bar, I can break at the knees and the hips at the same time and not lose my core positioning. You see here, if I start to break at the knees, my hips will drift back kind of naturally versus shoving my knees forward too much or arching my back and sitting my hips too far back. Kind of find that nice middle ground, all right? So I'm not arching the bar out of the rack, I'm not throwing my hips through and doing a deadlift lockout out of the rack, but my hips are behind the bar, tuck my hips under, stand, and there I kind of have my perfect balance of where I want my hips in relation to the bar.